all this talk of separatism and everything. The whole country's like a huge search commercial. Why is that, Mark? Because they have two countries in one. Anyway, until next time, this is Mork from Mork, signing off. Nano, nano.
Gustaron más sus imitaciones aquí que en su primera actuación en vivo. Debutó en un pequeño club en un sótano, Jack Jack's, en el centro de Toronto. Pero el imitador adolescente no le cayó bien al dueño del club.
Anyone could get on stage. That was our ethos. But our ethos also was, if you can't make them laugh, we have the obligation and the right to make fun of you to get that laugh. So Jim shows up, and he must have been 14 years old. 14 years old, in some ugly powder blue leisure suit from the Sticks, and wants to go on. Well, we say, fine, he can go on. He goes on, and he does a real old-style vaudeville kind of inflected show with, he's doing impressions of people that have been dead for 50 years. And the audience is bored or booing. So I said, give him the hook. And as Jim's going to his act, he hooks the hook right around his neck, gives it a good yank, and Jim comes flying off stage. That was Jim's first appearance at Yuck Yucks.
No fue la primera vez que fracasaría Jim Carrey, pero fue una experiencia dura para un joven de 14 años.
A lot of people don't know this, but I know a lot about the poor and stuff, because when I was about 14 or 15, my father lost his job, and we actually became homeless.
The funny thing is that from the perspective of the Carrey family, living in the camper van wasn't the real horror.
Of course, I grew up in Canada, so I thought we had just gone camping, you know?
I mean, they look back on the camper van as the happy times because they were so glad to have escaped from Titan Wheels.
Like I'd say, Dad, are we by any chance living below the poverty line? And he'd say, no, son, we're rich as long as we have each other. Now get in the dumpster.
And think that he could pull it off. That showed an outrageous amount of confidence.
Percy, padre de Jim, manager y coescritor también, lo había estimulado para hacer esa actuación desastrosa. Percy Carrey había tocado el saxo en una banda de swing, pero dejó su carrera de música para tomar un empleo más seguro como tenedor de libros. Ir a la casa de los Carrey era como ir a un ensayo continuo. El padre de Jim era muy cómico. Las frases jocosas iban y venían. Percy y Jim siempre trabajan en la actuación.
My dad does Jimmy Stewart.
How are you, Jim? About these marks in school today.
You're always thinking about it. Just like being a doctor, you're on call all the time. You know, if you're not doing it or talking about it, you're thinking about it.
Cuando Jim tenía 14 años, llegó el desastre. Percy perdió el empleo seguro como tenedor de libros.
Percy sold his sax, gave up the idea of being a musician in order to support the family in a dull job, and then wound up losing the dull job, which was the ultimate humiliation. So he might as well, if he was going to be broke, he might as well have followed his dream.
Percy Carrey entonces fue guardia de seguridad nocturno en una compañía de neumáticos llamada Titan Wheels. La familia se mudó a la casa de la fábrica. Los niños hacían el turno de noche. Jim limpiaba los pisos y los baños de la planta.
The house went with the job, and if they knew very well that if they left the job, they'd be homeless. But they felt that it was turning them into monsters and racists and bigots, and they'd become people they didn't like, and they had to get out of there.
A los 16 años, Jim estaba agotado y dejó la escuela. Los Carrey tocaron fondo. Dejaron Titan Wheels y durante 8 meses vivieron en una camioneta Volkswagen.
See, a lot of people don't know this, but I know a lot about the poor and stuff, because when I was about 14 or 15, my father lost his job, and we actually became homeless.
The funny thing is that from the perspective of the Carrey family, Living in the camper van wasn't the real horror.
Of course, I grew up in Canada, so I thought we had just gone camping, you know.
I mean, they look back on the camper van as the happy times because they were so glad to have escaped from Titan Wheels.
Like I'd say, Dad, are we by any chance living below the poverty line? And he'd say, no, son, we're rich as long as we have each other. Now get in the dumpster.
En el verano del 78, Jim hizo el primero de sus regresos. La fortuna de la familia iba con él.
It provided them with sort of a future tense, you know. One day, Jim is going to make it, he's going to become a big star, and our ship is going to come in for the whole family.
I used to drive like 50 miles back and forth from Jackson's Point every second night or every night to do a set at Yuck Yucks for free. No pay. Not even a gas stub or anything, nothing.
Jim se pasaba horas y horas desarrollando personajes. Su actuación se volvía cada vez mejor y explotó en el ambiente de Toronto.
You know, I spend the majority of my lifetime staring in the mirror.
Caesar, man, you just gotta get into it. Not just a feeling.
But I'm not looking at me. I'm looking at Leonid Brezhnev. Tom Jones! Michael Landon's smiling.
La gente del espectáculo comenzó a notarlo.
There was just something about him that made me step back and say, who's that kid?
Did I spit on you there? Sorry. Those little blotches of wet stuff on your face mean that I'm working up here.
Jim actuaba en cualquier club que lo contratara, pero ese fue un problema en Yuck Yucks. A Mark Blesling no le gustaban los comediantes que iban a otros clubes. Carrey fue prohibido y si no trabajabas en Yuck Yucks no tenías carrera.
Boycott the Jim Carrey Show. Don't go in there. Dangerous to mental health. Boycott the Jim Carrey Show. Boycott the Jim Carrey Show. Boycott the Jim Carrey Show.
Little Spivak hizo un trato para que trabajara otra vez en Yuck Yucks.
When I asked Mark for him to come back, he said, well, yes, he can come back and have a week at Yuck Yucks if he plays the Montreal Yuck Yucks for free for 1 week.
I was trying to carve out a niche for myself and a niche for my company, and it involved keeping everybody basically helping me as much as possible. Some people want to, you know, didn't see an obligation that way.
Para un joven de 19 años desesperado por mantener a su familia, actuar gratis una semana fue un trago amargo. Y en Toronto siguió la presión. Yuck Yucks estaba repleto de críticos y agentes. Jim tenía que causar una gran impresión.
I'm no fast amazing question.
What I would like to do if I'm is now go down into the audience.
We had an all-girls school who saw this, you know, very handsome, charming performer on stage, and they were screaming.
You like that, eh? You love it, right?
I mean, it was like seeing the Beatles. It's at that point that I stopped making phone calls out, and phone calls started to come in.
Luego de actuar a teatro lleno en Yuck Yucks, Jim y Little se fueron a Nueva York. El público era más duro y los críticos también, pero ellos veían su talento.
There's a comic, older guy, who went by Uncle Dirty. And Uncle Dirty stood at the back of the club beside me, and he whispered, he's not Lenny, but he's money.
Fuerte y seguro, Jim quería más. Consiguió un nuevo representante y se fue al oeste, a Los Ángeles, para su primera gran oportunidad.
We got in fairly late in the day, LA time.
Sería una visita decisiva.
It was about 9 o'clock we went out, something like that, and we decided to walk down Sunset Boulevard towards downtown LA. And we came across Grauman's Man's Chinese Theater. Jim was hopping from star to star and handprint and footprint. I mean, it was just, look who this is, and of course, if he knew them, he'd do the voice. Once we had done this for about 10 or 15 minutes, he turned to me and he said, I'm going to be here someday. I mean, we're talking about, he's sitting here, you know, we've got Lucille Ball, and I'm going to be here someday, and we're down trying to break into a comedy club. This is a big jump. And there was a movie theater down there, and sure enough, On Golden Pond this was the premiere of On Golden Pond. As soon as the movie began, he's starting to work on the voices. Henry Fonda is speaking and Jim is starting. And I'm going, well, this went on for the entire 2 hours of the movie. Movie ends. Great, exhausted. It's got to be 1 or 2, and we've been flying all day and whatnot from Toronto, and let's go. No. We've got to see this again. Second time through, he knows what the scenes are. He's even memorized some of the lines. Now he's doing it in sync with them. And he's got it.
You want me to pick strawberries?
He does it all the way back up Sunset Boulevard as we're walking. He's now running the scenes down and doing both parts.
It's very simple, no man. You just bend over and pick them.
Bend over? Where are they?
He continued on in the hotel room. He was still going the next morning. I mean, I woke up with either Jack Nicholson or Henry Fonda or Katharine Hepburn at the foot of my bed going full tilt. I mean, living with him for 3 days in a hotel room was sort of like having most of Hollywood in the room with you. It just never quit.
Looking for strawberries.
I'll pay you to get the strawberries.
La actuación de En la Laguna Dorada dio sus frutos y a los 19 años, Jim Carrey se fue de Canadá para siempre.
You could become a major strawberry picker.
I don't think you can actually do something interesting unless you're booed off the stage, unless you feel that. I used to go to the Comedy Store some nights and go, okay, now this is, I have to not be accepted. Tonight is my job. To not be liked, to not be accepted. And so I'd go up in front of the audience and start, you know, saying painful things and...
To the audience?
Yeah, sure, and then I'd start a fight.
And then if he was bombing, he would do this thing where he would pretend to be calling his wife, and he would call his wife as if he was doing great, but crying, and go, we don't have to worry anymore, honey. Don't have to worry about making ends meet. Daddy's doing great. And he would always do that right when the crowd hated him the most.
Go. Let's go.
Because I think it's important for an artist to not crave the acceptance as much, you know, on every occasion. I mean, you can't learn anything new unless you go through that period where people are going, where's your thing we like?
Hollywood, 1982. La plataforma de despegue para los comediantes estaba aquí en la calle Sunset. Si uno quería ser famoso en televisión o en el cine, tenía que mostrar su talento aquí, en The Comedy Store. Y para hacer eso, Carrey eligió otro representante más, alguien que sabía llenar el teatro.
My job was to be on the phone day and night, calling up everybody. I had tons of lists and calling them all up and just bug them to death until they came down there.
El acoso de Holly funcionó. Docenas de agentes, productores y directores llenaron el club para ver las imitaciones de Jim. Entre ellos estaba uno de los productores de TV más importantes.
At the end of this evening, he goes into this On Golden Pond thing, which is not only funny, but it is touching,
And it is acting. You could clearly see that this guy was an actor.
Alan Barnes tenía una serie de programas exitosos, incluyendo el show de Mary Tyler Moore, Rhoda y Lou Grant. Barnes tenía el toque de oro. Sus programas ganaron todos los premios posibles y estaba buscando una estrella para su nueva serie, La Fábrica de Patos. Parecía una gran oportunidad para Jim Carrey. Queriendo compartir su nuevo éxito, Jim mudó a sus padres de Canadá a Los Ángeles.
And he was very much a frustrated performer who wound up living out his dreams through Jim's talent. And, you know, Jim was going to take him into the promised land and do what Percy himself had not been able to do.
I thought it was very kind of dear of him that he was kind of proud of them, and he'd bring them around, and here's my dad, and make sure they were okay. I thought that was kind of unusual.
Carrey fue contratado 2 semanas antes de empezar la filmación. Después de una temporada, Alan Burns recibió la llamada que todos los de Hollywood temen.
I'll tell you why the show's not on the air. It isn't any good. It's not funny. There's nobody in the cast that I like. And I said, wait a minute, we've got this guy, this hot kid named Jim Carrey. And he said, I don't care who he is, he's not funny.
Do you wish you'd had the time to rewrite this guy?
Had I had a little more time and a little more exposure to Jim, that character would have been different. And maybe that show would have gone on for longer than it did and might have killed his career entirely.
El primer programa de televisión de Jim fue un fracaso. Su romance con Linda Ronstadt terminó y su primer protagónico en la película Una vez mordido no llegó a nada. Jim Carrey estaba sin suerte y sin dinero. Envió a sus padres a casa, pero no quisieron irse.
After a big high at the beginning of the year, it all crashes and he sends his parents home. What kind of a state was he in?
Well, that was at the point when Jim sent them back where he was going through therapy, where he was re-examining what he wanted to do with his life. It affected him mentally, no question about that. I think it would affect anybody.
A los 21 años, Jim Carrey fracasó de nuevo.
What have you learned about failure in all the things that you've done?
That it's a relative term, you know. There isn't failure unless you accept it, you know. There's been so many times along the way, you know, when I did the Duck Factory and that went away, and where people say, well, you had your shot, yeah, that's it, you know, and the people that make it are the people who just keep going.
Come and join me and a group of terrific entertainers for lots of music and laughter at a big concert in New Orleans.
Con las alas caídas, Jim Carrey firmó para un especial de la CBC con el imitador más famoso de Canadá. Trabajar con Rich Little le dio un vistazo de lo que podría llegar a ser.
And then he went to Las Vegas with Rich Little, and he realized that, in fact, he didn't want to wind up being Rich Little. He didn't want to wind up being in Las Vegas. And Cary Grant was in the audience when Rich Little was doing his act, and Rich Little went over and did shtick at Cary Grant's table. And in that moment, Jim Carrey suddenly thought, you know, I don't want to be Rich Little, I want to be Cary Grant. And that really changed his whole approach to his career. He was ready to dump his impressionist act and go in a new direction.
Jim regresó a Los Ángeles y volvió al escenario. Pero esta vez no se escondió detrás de ninguna cara famosa. Se arriesgó por completo.
He certainly was a guy that when he went on, everyone would go into the back of the room. You know, the walls would be lined with comedians to see what Jim would do tonight. So I think everybody rooted him on. Nobody was saying, oh God, I wish you would do more impressions.
Jim fue audaz. Desafió las leyes básicas del comediante. Que la gente se ría y quédate con lo que funciona. Algunas noches no era agradable.
Get out. Think I'm kidding you?
Get out! Get out! Get out! God, get out! Oh, God!
I don't think you can actually do something interesting unless you're booed off the stage, unless you feel that. I used to go to the Comedy Store some nights and go, okay, now this is, I have to not be accepted. Tonight is my job. To not be liked, to not be accepted. And so I'd go up in front of the audience and start, you know, saying painful things and...
To the audience?
Yeah, sure, and then I'd start a fight.
And then if he was bombing, he would do this thing where he would pretend to be calling his wife, and he would call his wife as if he was doing great, but crying, and go, "We don't have to worry anymore, honey. Don't have to worry about making ends meet. Daddy's doing great." And he would always do that right when the crowd hated him the most.
Oh, let's go.
Because I think it's important for an artist to not crave the acceptance as much, you know, on every occasion. I mean, you can't learn anything new unless you go through that period where people are going, "Where's your thing we like?"
La inspiración de Jim y su gran amigo era el cómico Sam Kinison. La relación de Carrey con Kinison condujo a alocadas salidas nocturnas. Cerraban The Comedy Store a las 2 de la mañana y se iban a la calle Sunset. Sam Kinison le quitó muchas restricciones que Jim tenía.
I watched a hell of a lot of comedians come up from the time I started in comedy clubs, and Sam was, you know, one of the first ones I sat back and went, man, this guy is really doing something different, you know, he's really challenging people, you know, and I saw him night after night at 2 in the morning, you know, chase half the audience out of the Comedy Store, you know, and I said, you know, if you can be willing to do that, then you're going to do something different with your art, you know, and so I've been chasing people out ever since.
Después de 2 años de experimentos alocados, Carrey no se había acercado al estrellato. Se casó con la camarera de The Comedy Store, Melissa Womar, y tuvieron una hija, Jane. Luego recibió un golpe. Sam Kinison murió en un accidente de automóvil. Algunas noches, Jim Carrey iba en su Nissan por la calle Mulholland y miraba hacia Hollywood. Una noche sucedió la historia más mítica de Carrey. En un acto de fe, Jim Carrey se hizo a sí mismo un cheque por $10 millones por sus servicios de actuación. En el siguiente viaje a casa en Canadá estaba claro que su inocencia se había perdido, pero que su comedia estaba intacta.
He's a nice, naive person who's suddenly thrown into this world of Hollywood sophistication and decadence. You're describing a TV character. Does that describe you?
Well, I suppose so, yeah, because I'm totally affected and different now. No one even knows me.
What did you do to you?
I phone my family and they go, what did you become, man?
Did you get into this drug scene down there?
I have some here right now, Paul, if you care to partake. If we could just can we have a mirror and some...
When you first go to L.A., you sort of get swept up in the, Jack and Angelica are here, you know. Jack, hi, how are you?
How are you? It's good to see you, Jim. Welcome to the ranks of the infamous. Looks like we're gonna have ourselves a nuclear holocaust.
You know, it's a crazy world down there, but then, you know, you are who you are, and you sort of, at a certain point, I just got back to, you know, just like doing what I do.
De vuelta en Los Ángeles, Jim estaba por fracasar otra vez.
Oh, so it's entertainment you want, huh? Okay. The lobster's gonna have his way to the...
Le ganó a 2,000 actores para ser el sujeto blanco de un programa de televisión negro llamado En Color. Pero lo más importante, no como la fábrica de patos una década atrás, fue que le permitió a Carrey ser Carrey.
In Living Color finally gave him a chance to break loose and show all the different aspects of his talent, including his enormous talent for parody and mimicry and lampoon.
Especially after a grueling afternoon of deep power squats.
And it also allowed him to express some anger.
They're getting ready to serve up some of this spiny sea urchin. You're high on MST. Somebody says, look, there's Chairman Mao showing everybody his ginseng route. You go to salute him. Next thing you know, you look like Jacques Cousteau in a trauma unit.
Which I think you see in the Fire Marshal Bill things, and you particularly see it in the amazing Dysfunctional Home Show. That is just fantastic material.
Once the family gets a taste of that, they're gonna... they're gonna...
Ahora Jim estaba preparado para dar el gran salto.
He knew he wanted to be a movie star.
Estaba en camino a cobrar su cheque de $10 millones.
So what do you desire now?
Love.
Además de la película exitosa, le faltaba algo más. Ahora, después de 2 matrimonios, el hombre de $20 millones es soltero otra vez.
It has been tough, and it's been a long journey and a painful one, because, you know, I don't like to hurt anybody, you know, but there's been, you know, I mean, I'm the guy who's been married twice. I never wanted to be that guy, you know, that sucks, you know, it sucks when you go out with someone and you have to, like, eventually get to, like, yeah, twice I've been married, you know, and you have to be that guy. It's a horrible thing, but it's a learning process, and...
En Hollywood es importante saber que el negocio del espectáculo son 2 palabras, espectáculo y negocios. El ascenso meteórico de Jim Carrey en tan solo 18 meses cuando llegó a ser el actor mejor pago del mundo es un caso que se estudia en el arte de los negocios.
When Jim was making nothing, he thought he was worth $20 million.
Este es el equipo Carrey. Eric Gold es el representante. Nick Stevens es el agente.
We were ready, and we were passionate that he could become, after Eddie and Steve Martin and Robin, the next guy.
We felt that Bill Murray, with his sort of attitude and who he was a good template as well, and we wanted to find all the scripts that were left over. The joke was it still had, like, stains on it from somebody's lunch, because it was like everybody had read it.
Por $350,000, la actuación de Jim Carrey en Ace Ventura provocó negociaciones alocadas.
We liked Ace Ventura. We worked cheap in the picture. You know, the feeling is that once you start to win, then you can change the equation. The Mask also was done before Ace Ventura came out. He worked for $450,000 on The Mask. Both those pictures hit, one bigger than the next, and then Dumb and Dumber came down the pike.
All right, I'm going to give him a rough idea of the film. You got 2 characters, Dumb and Dumber. Right? One of them is a limo driver. He has a love interest. He finds out she's going to Aspen, follows her there. Actually follows her to Aspen. And as you can see, it's a very funny premise.
2 dumb guys get together. Go on a trip.
Well, we were ready to make a deal, you know, from the 450 that was not as significant as it turned out to be on Dumb and Dumber before Ace came out, and the studio played their cards and we played ours.
2 things we knew. We knew that we liked the movie, and we knew that some of the key moments in that movie took place in snow, and they were running out of time.
We were begging him, give him the money, you know, it's gonna be worth it.
And we knew that that snow was a gun to their head, because if they didn't shoot it soon, they couldn't shoot it for a year.
For a while they thought about changing it to a summer. He goes out there to Aspen in the summer. It wouldn't have been as fun, but, you know, that was our, that's what we were thinking of.
They come back to us after Ace Ventura opens at $12.5 million, and now he's a movie star.
Yeah, I remember being in an office down the hall here, and when we were into the 2s and 3s and 4 million, that's when the ride got interesting.
kept saying no to the deal. And it was 1, and it turned into 2, that turned into 4, that turned into 5, that turned into 6. And honestly, Jim was a little nervous because Jim was a guy who lived in a Volkswagen van with his family at one point. And, you know, at times he would say, "You sure we shouldn't just say yes to $5 million?" When we got to $7 million, the head of the studio of production, Mike DeLuca, said to us, "You know what? You can probably get a little bit more. But if you go beyond this, you're going to really be having such ill will towards him that it just won't be worth it. And I'd rather just take it at 7 or don't do it because it won't be good."
La marea había cambiado. Ahora las ofertas llovían.
Veterans of the business call us and say, "We would like Jim Carrey to be the Riddler."
We knew he'd kill as the Riddler.
Pero aún más importante que este era un trato que se estaba negociando mientras Jim filmaba Batman.
It was an intense negotiation. They came with their best and last offer, which would have been the most ever paid for a comedian. And we passed. Go ahead. You can say it. You're a genius. We passed the day before Batman premiered.
What did you pass at? What was the offer then?
$17.5 million.
Finalmente el equipo Carrey firmó el proyecto a una cifra sin precedentes de $20 millones. Fue histórico en Hollywood. ¿Pero Jim Carrey se quedaría tranquilo?
Let's see that in an instant replay.
Con millones de niños adictos a sus personajes cómicos, de pronto se volvió alguien completamente diferente.
Doing the Cable Guy wasn't much different than what he did by bailing on his impressionist act. He had this very solid, you know, career, and then he says to everyone, "I want to go farther, I want to be more creative, I want to take more chances, I want to challenge you, so check this out."
Take off!
En El Insoportable, Jim era el malo. Y su mensaje para los niños que lo querían fue una reprimenda oscura. La adicción a la televisión no es una broma. En cuanto al dinero, el equipo Carrey mostró una asombrosa consistencia. 6 películas seguidas y cada una recaudó más de $100 millones. Extrañamente, el hombre conocido por hablar por el trasero había mostrado excelente juicio.
The most important thing I think people overlook is it's about taste. Jim Carrey he made good choices. You know, he hasn't made a bad movie, you know, since Ace Ventura. He's made, you know, different kinds of movies, but he has not made a bad movie.
La última elección de Jim, Hombre en la Luna, fue otro riesgo, pero este terminó con sus éxitos de taquilla. El nombre de Carrey garantizaba localidades agotadas, pero al público no le gustaba Andy Kaufman y la película fue un fracaso. Mientras que la actuación de Jim fue premiada con el Globo de Oro,
Jim Carrey,
la medalla de plata de los premios de Hollywood, la academia no estaba impresionada. Sus actores colegas todavía no están convencidos de que Jim Carrey sea bueno. Por segundo año consecutivo le negaron la nominación al Oscar al mejor actor.
So what do you desire now?
Love.
Pero más allá de las películas taquilleras, algo más faltaba. Después de 2 matrimonios, el hombre de $20 millones es soltero otra vez. En diciembre del 99, Jim pasó un fin de semana en Los Ángeles promoviendo Hombre en la Luna a la prensa estadounidense. La mitad de los reporteros creyeron que Jim tenía un romance con la actriz Courtney Love. El lunes no había dudas de que Jim estaba ligado afectivamente con su próxima coestrella Renée Zellweger. Será una forma perfecta de promover la siguiente película. ¿Pero es la más efectiva de vivir una vida personal?
Everything's cool for 6 months, you're on the set, everybody's doing everything for you, and then when you get home, there's real life. And then it's like, well, who's, you know, like you left the toilet seat up, well, I don't need this. Give me another movie, all right. Who's in it? Selma Hayek? Well, all right. You know what I mean?
Su segundo matrimonio con la coestrella de Tonto y Retonto, Lauren Holly, los encontró desfilando por Hollywood. La unión fue rápida y fotogénica. Su Su primer matrimonio con Melissa Womer terminó cuando comenzó la carrera de cine de Jim.
It has been tough, and it's been a long journey and a painful one, because, you know, I don't like to hurt anybody, you know, but there's been, you know, I mean, I'm the guy who's been married twice. I never wanted to be that guy, you know, that sucks, you know, it sucks when you go out with someone and you have to, like, eventually get to, like, yeah, twice I've been married, you know, and you have to be that guy. It's a horrible thing, but it's a learning process, and I've learned that I can't fix my mom anymore.
Ambas esposas hicieron arreglos con el equipo Carrey, pero los divorcios son una falla en el gran plan.
I did an interview with him where I asked him what he still desired. What do you think he said?
Love.
El biógrafo de Jim ofrece una explicación de sus dificultades matrimoniales.
There's a level of obsession and desperation to Jim's life, which I think comes out of the experiences that he had as a child. And I think that would make somebody extremely hard to live with. And I think he's very aware of that.
Jim Carrey es el hombre en medio de la máquina que hace estrellas. Tuvo que desarrollar un fuerte sentido de lo que le pertenece al mundo y lo que le pertenece a él.
I've gotten really good at kind of judging what's fair to ask me for and what's not.
Yeah.
And that I can't be attached to a result. If they go away and they feel like they didn't get enough from me, then I can't worry about it. You know, there's too many people in the world, and it's like, you know, I'm nice to people. I like people. You know, I like saying hi to people, and I like that they like me. It's great, but don't ask me for the tag off my underwear, because you're not getting it.
Dentro de la vida muy controlada de Jim, el equipo Carrey ya está trabajando en el proyecto del año que viene. La idea es hacer una estrella que perdure.
You can be of your generation, or you can transcend any generation. And I think what Jim's looking for is to have a career that will transcend any one generation.
La próxima vez que abra el circo en su cabeza, ¿quién saldrá?
It seems like no matter what happens, no matter how bad things get, Jimmy Stewart can look at it in a positive way. Well, I guess we're going to have ourselves a nuclear holocaust. Well, everybody come over to the window. Look at that mushroom cloud. Isn't that beautiful? And last but not least, James Dean.
De niño, Jim Carrey escapó de la realidad de su vida habitando las 100 caras que absorbió de la televisión y el cine. Esos personajes lo llevaron a este nivel de fe. ¿Pero qué le queda a este gran inventor?
I think Jim Carrey is going to be around for an awfully long time, not only because I think he has a great talent, but because he's demonstrated that he doesn't give up when other people would give up. So no defeat or humiliation stops Jim Carrey.
The people that make it are the people who just keep going. Keep going. And Rodney Dangerfield used to say to me, just make the, man, you got to make the tank strong enough that nothing can stop it, man.
Percy Carrey murió en 1994, justo cuando su hijo se estaba convirtiendo en estrella de cine. En su funeral, Jim puso el cheque de $10 millones que había hecho en las colinas en el bolsillo de su padre.